Hello and welcome back. This is part 3 of my kitchen shelf project. Part 1 was the design and part 2 was cutting up of all the raw stock. Now in part 3 we will be gluing the edges, machining dados, and I hope to be able to finish the assembly without having to go to a part 4, but we'll see how long this chapter goes. So let's get started. Part 2 ended with prepping to glue the edging on the top and bottom of the sides, so that's where we'll begin. Now we're ready to glue. Want to ensure it's got overhang both sides. And now to staple this in place, I'm going to lower that a little so it's easier to get this done. Staple this in place, we're going to take a scrap board on top. Running this gun at 90 psi, now we should get a staple. Just like that. You know, I could do as many of these as one across there. This is a sacrificial board, so when the glue is set up, I'll just take that board off, and then I will be able to get a pair of pliers or something on those staples, yank them out, and it won't be in the way of the table saw. So a closer look. And here you can get a better idea of what I'm doing here. Got good squeeze out. Let's check the other side. We've got good squeeze out on the other side, so pretty much ready to go with this one. I'm going to have to wait for that glue to set up, trim the board, do the other side, and start on the other one. Glue is set up, now it's to pull up all of my temporary clamps. Use a small chisel or a screwdriver. See if we can do this without getting in the way here. This will be difficult. Let's try going this way. Just tap it under the board. Pull it up, and hopefully it pulls the rivet up with it. If it doesn't, it's a simple thing. Obviously we don't want to use our chisel to pull the rivet. We just need to get something to get a hold of it and pull it out. Now it's time to go down the line here and pull all of the staple clamps. Okay, that's one side done. Gonna finish up the bottom and top of the two sides and finish all the drawers, and we'll be ready to cut all the boards to their final size. All the staples are pulled. We've got some final cutting and sanding to do to get all the boards cut to size, but unfortunately I don't know if we can see this. I can use this to focus on. Unfortunately, I can't tell if that's focusing on the tip of my little chisel. You should be able to see at an angle there that I nicked one of the staples and kind of screwed up the tip. So now I'm going to need to clean up this chisel, and here is the video here. Real quick look at it, or you can jump to that and see the video on my workshop and cleaning up the tip of this chisel. First step in getting my boards cleaned up is the overhang, and I did that by intent, so I didn't try to keep everything flush. And the easiest way I have for trimming that overhang is a pole saw. This is the pole saw that I use, and a lot of people don't use these correctly because they don't understand. If you'll notice, we have a label here, this side up. The offset on these teeth are all going up, so this side is smooth. So when you cut, this side goes against the board, and again, it is a pole saw. I've seen a lot of reviews complain because people try to use it as a back and forth, and the blade is not flimsy enough, or the blade is too flimsy. If you try to push on it, the blade's just going to bend. So let's get zoomed in. There's the little nub that's got to come off. So we're going to hold it here, and we're going to take a finger, and we're going to hold the finger against this face of the board. And I'm going to lift up and pull down. I'm going to exaggerate the motion, but it's more or less like this. Lift up and pull back, lift up and pull back as I'm holding it against the face. And there we have a nice flush cut. A little bit of sanding, and that is ready to go. Now I have to do the rest of the next step is I'm going to match up the edge of the edging to the face of the side, top, bottom, and this side. And once we get all this done, then it's time to resaw to the correct dimensions. First step, I'm going to get my little block plane out and get this edge very close to this, and then we sand the rest of the way. So here we go. Over here I've got my boards. There's the two sides sitting like up and down, all my shelves, and it's time to make them back to their final dimension after putting the edging on, which is 9 inches. I do believe I already have the fence set up ready to go, but we're going to double check that before making the cuts. The 9 inch isn't critical, but what is critical is only that they're all the same. Firm, blade height, and I'm going to be estimating there should be about 1/8 inch material left, and that looks like it's about right. So let's get started. All the boards are cut to size. Now we need to machine our dados for the shelves. I've got my print handy here where everything's at. Again, I'm going to comment that the exact distance between all the shelves isn't that critical, but what's critical is both sides are the same. So we're going to mark one, then we're going to transfer the marks from the first one to the second one to ensure they're the same. What I've got here, I've got my tape measure hanging out, but I almost forgot an important step. As you can see, the tape measure moves. You can see on the other end of the board, up against that, up against the end on the other side of the board, but because the tape measure moves, that could be an issue. To resolve that issue, going to get a few boards stacked up over here. See if we can see that. Stacked up over here. Release the lock on the tape measure, and now it pulls against the boards. So if I pull it, you can see, if you're going to watch here at the 58-inch mark, if I pull it away, it just comes right back. So these boards, just enough weight to keep tension on the tape measure while I make the rest of it. You can go out buy these edge marking transfer tools, but I went ahead and printed mine on my 3D printer. Make sure that line is right with this one, and we can draw the line on top. And now we're ready to cut our dados, and for that I'm going to have to unbury my dado jig that's sitting underneath a pile of wood on the bench. We are set up for our first test. Over here we've got my router with an 18mm bit stuck in there, and as simple as it is, coming into frame here is my router jig, and this will be the second time I've used it. This time though will be the first time using my alignment pointer that I did on the 3D printer, and underneath it, hard to see, is my first test board. That's going to be inspecting this cut and ensuring I've got the right depth set. In the router is a router bushing. The router bushing fits in this slot. This pointer will slide back and forth in the slot, aligning those two pointed edges to the board. In theory, that's how it should work. So first thing we're going to do, as I'm sitting here looking at this, some clamps. These two boards here to keep this stable. Now let's get you off the tripod here to get a better look at what goes on in there. Down here you can see the pointer, and what I'll end up doing is getting this lined up so that the pointer is pointing to one end of the line on this side and then pointing on the end of this line, and then I know that this slot is lined up with the cut. We'll drop the router in there, make the cut, and see how it goes. Everything's set, clamped in place, and let's see if we got the depth set correct. There's my dado. This board should fit in there. Perfect, nice and tight. And we need to check the depth. This is another one where the depth isn't critical, but they all need to be the same. Right at, actually just a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. Our dado jig is ready to go. Now let's get the board set up to do the actual cuts. Lining this up, my little pointer on the line, front to back. Also ensuring that the jig is square to the piece. This jig was made very close to tolerance, so I know everything is square. Clamp in place, make sure nothing can move. Check and make certain that I'm clear to the clamps to go front to back, and we're ready to cut. Okay, that's it for the dados. Now I need to cut a rabbet on both ends of the sides. Now ready for my final rabbet cut on the sides. You can see here in the middle, I'm using just a small board to line up one of the dados, a clamp there to hold the two sides together, and down here I have it clamped to my workbench. Bosch router jig. First time using it on a product board. So let's hope I don't make any scrap. Making sure it clears all my clamps. And here we go. Little fine piece means I'm just almost perfect with the edge of the board. So now we just have a bit of sanding to do, and it's time to start assembling this thing. I'm not going to go over all the sanding. Let's see if we can see this in the screen here. You can see we've got all my parts here up on the bench. Hand sanding block. But what one thing I did want to show before I started sanding is this little tool on my 3D printer. I don't know if you can see this here, labeled 18mm. I made this explicitly for sanding 18mm dados. And it's simple. You just wrap a piece of sandpaper around it, and it allows you to ensure the bottom of that dado is nice and flat. As we can see, this fits in here perfect, and this did not change the fit because the actual width of the base is small enough to account for the width of, or the extra thickness of the sandpaper. So we're going to go through, sand the bases of all the dados, and start our first stage of finish sanding. Well, this is the second video where I've lost the soundtrack. I looked through the manual, I looked on the camera, and there is no mute button, so I'm not certain what's happening. This is just a quick look around how it's going to be laid up on my bench. Here we can see it's clamped in place on the back, all the shelves are in position, and that's the toe kick sitting on top. Coming around to the other side, we can see where I have two boards clamped on the bench top to inhibit me from pushing it off the end of the bench as I'm lining everything up. The toe kick was cut long, and it's going to be cut and fit in place as the final assembly step. And we're back.
And as we can see down here at the what's going to be the bottom of the shelf, I've got my two 90-degree clamps in place holding the bottom at 90 degrees. And if I cut everything right, each shelf will be at 90 degrees. Let's get some more light on it, just so it shows up better in the camera. All right, as we go and check each shelf. Each shelf is 90 on this side. It'll come around on the other side. And if I cut all my dados correctly, perfect. Outstanding. Oop, I gotta switch hands on this one. This camera was not made for a lefty. And the last one. Outstanding. And then the last thing we're gonna check. Come up here, let's get these gussets out of the way. And let's make sure our top is 90. Perfect. Again, I need to switch hands here. And the last check. Perfect. Now are my gussets good? That gusset is good. And that gusset is good. So, I got everything cut correctly. I should check everything's the right depth. And oh, this side is flush. This side is not. This one is not. Let's see, it's possible the side is up slightly, so let's make sure it's down flat on the bench, and it says just slight, maybe 10,000ths difference on those two. And that's good, and then of course the bottom shelf is good. So I got two shelves, we're cut quite square. We're going to have to ensure that the bottom joints, we'll take the piece of paper and slide it underneath the corners before we glue it up to make sure everything is aligned correctly on the front side. So the next thing I need to do, you can see this vertical line, I have a line drawn for each of the shelves. We're going to need to drill a pilot hole in there and get it ready for screws. And by that time, I believe it's going to be time to glue it up and do the final sanding.
All the prep work is done, and it's time to put it all together. I've got the bottom shelf pulled out. Of course, all the other shelves are already pulled out. We're going to glue these in one at a time. I've got this one. This shelf is there just holding it as a spacer, this clamp holding that in place. And I've got a spreader here opening up the bottom so that once I apply my adhesive, then I can just drop this in place and screw it, drill it, and then screw it in. I haven't quite decided if it's going to be easier to put the glue on the shelves ends or on the inside first. I have to figure that out before I get started. And then we're going to get all these things glued up. So let me get my tools prepped. I got to get my drill out. I've got to get my bit driver out for the screws. And all the screws ready, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, I do believe we are ready. I've got my screwdriver, drill bit. Here's the screws I'm going to be using. We're going to be using these square drive screws. They are not going to be permanent in here. We're going to use these screws to hold it together, and once the glue sets, we're going to take the screws out, fill in the holes. So I decided I think it's going to be easier to apply the glue on the sides and then put the shelves in place to avoid smearing the glue on the surface. I think that'll keep it contained. We're going to be using the Gorilla polyurethane glue. This is expanding glue, so we've got to make sure we don't use too much, or I'm going to have a little bit of cleanup to do around the joints. Apply the glue on both sides. Fit this in place, especially with the bottom one. Clamp it up with my 90-degree clamps. And once that's done and clamped, we will progress and do each one all the way to the end. So let's get a little more light on the subject. Hopefully it'll show up better in the video. And let's get zoomed in on this part, and I hope I remember going to pan over as I move up the shelf. Before we get started, if you'll notice, I've got a piece of craft paper essentially underneath each joint so my glue doesn't get down and muck up my workbench. And here we go. slow down just a little bit here. Once I have my clamps, my alignment clamps in place, I've got to loosen up everything else to make sure these set up at 90 degrees. And a real quick check on the second shelf, and we're good to go. We're done. Let's get a close-up look. We can see our urethane glue is already bubbling out on this side. That's why I assembled it in steps. There'd be no way I could get all the glue in place and all the parts in place before the glue started to bubble. And you see we've got a bunch of bleed out on this side over here. Way too much glue on that one. This side's looking pretty good, just a little bit of bleed out. We prefer to see a bit of bleed out across each of the joints, which means the whole joint got covered with the glue. There we can see the bleed out on that one. Everything else here is looking pretty good. So, glue's in place. Nothing else we can do for a few hours, and it's already late in the afternoon, so nothing we're going to do until tomorrow. That's going to do it for part 3. Part 4 and the final chapter will be the finishing, painting, and installation of my new shelf. Be sure to subscribe to follow this project and hit that notification bell to be informed of future updates.